Alright, hello and welcome guys to our next episode of the series. Going to be week 5 in Spain. We have one left-hander going into the uphill that's very difficult. But we'll have to see how we do during qualifying as well as the race for that corner. Very sharp turn, very easy to get to the outside of that lane into the runoff. But the race will be wet, so we're going to have to be running a wet setup on our car during qualifying. Hopefully our qualifying isn't too bad. But let's get right into qualifying. Alright, we finished our out lap. Let's go ahead and start this lap pretty well. Hopefully it'll do good. A little rough there on that turn. We're going to be coming up on that left-hand turn that's very sharp. And that's what I was talking about going into the runoff. I don't think we're going to have a very good time here. Starting with a 120. Alright. Drop us down to 8. We'll see you guys on our next run. That was not a good run. Alright, we'll see you guys on the next try. Alright, final attempt. Here we go. Got some cars coming onto the track. Cutting that corner a little rough there. We're looking to stay in the positive here. George Russell there in front of us. Get out of the way, please. Thank you. Coming up on that left hairpin. Taking the corner as fast as possible there. A little rough on that turn. That's going to hurt our time. All right, 14th place, and we got about a minute to see if we stay in for the second round. We will see what happens. All right, looks like we got knocked out of qualifying just by 1/10 of a second from Yuki Tsunoda. I knew the rain setup for qualifying was going to be a hard decision, but it is going to be a wet race, so we will see you guys at the start of the race.
The Spanish Grand Prix has been a permanent fixture on the Formula One calendar for over 30 years now, and for good reason. Do you remember Michael Schumacher's absolute dominance here in that rain-soaked Grand Prix in 1996? That day he took his first ever victory for Ferrari, and we've had many more iconic moments since. It's 730 metres from pole position down to a slippery turn 1 here, the first of 16 corners around this 2.89-mile racetrack. The long, wide turn 3 and the uphill right-hander of turn 9 can both be taken full throttle in the right conditions, but I doubt very much we'll be seeing any of that today. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and Norris, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Stroll, and Pierre Gasly, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Mick Schumacher, and Tsunoda, Schwartzman, Johnson, George Russell, and Sergio Perez. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Giotto, Mazepin, Latifi, and Jack Aitken. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
All right, we are wrapping up our formation lap. Just like the introduction show, it's going to be a rainy race. And we have a lot of work in front of us, being in P16 after a very upsetting qualification, but that's because we were in the setup. But we're going to go ahead and hope for the best of this race and be very cautious and see what we can do, especially with Carlos Sainz being so far up the grid. So we'll see what happens. All right, onto our 5 red lights. Let's get this race going, see how we can do. Not a very good start for us in the rain. We're going to be losing 2 positions, dropping down to 18th, then 19th, and on this final corner we're going to be dropping down to 21st. Unfortunately, going to be working from the back of the pack here next to Nicholas Latifi. And the view in the cockpit in the rain was not very helpful for this race, so that added another precaution there. But we do take a couple positions back on the inside corners here. Having to file single file on some of these turns, that way we don't cause any wrecks here. Going to be behind Robert Schwartzman at this time, trying to regain our position back to our original start. I think about making a move to the outside, but I end up not doing so, because this rain is not helping us at all. Coming up to that left-hander hairpin, I decided to go to the inside here next to Robert Schwartzman. We're fighting for position, but he goes ahead and gives me that position. So we're now back to our original position where we started in 16th. We're kind of towards the end of lap 1 here. And we are back where we started. Moving on to lap 14 here. Again, a couple more positions as what you've seen in the previous clip. Passing Antonio Giovinazzi and Yuki Tsunoda there. Not a very eventful race, but we are gaining some positions back. moving on to lap 15, where Carlos Sainz evidently had an incident where he spun out a couple turns ahead of us, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. On board with Carlos Sainz. Takes curbs a little bit on that turn, but on this next turn his front tire hits the curb and he ends up spinning out. He probably hit some standing water there, and he lost those positions waiting to get on the track, so it doesn't really help him as well. He's going to be in 10th place behind Esteban Ocon and in front of ourselves. There was a yellow flag in Sector 2 because of this, but there was no safety car. Moving on to lap 16, first iteration of pit stops. We do gain some positions, as you can see some of the guys in pit lane going in or out for their first and only pit stop. It seems like everybody ran a single pit stop race because of the rain. We're going to be up in P8 on the start of lap 17. We're now moving on to lap 18, where we go into the pits. Lap 17, we had another iteration of pit stops. We were P6, but we're going to be going back into the pits for our one and only pit stop here, dropping our positions back down to P11 behind Carlos Sainz. That incident with Carlos Sainz a few laps ago did not help our situation at all with scoring some points, because P11 and on do not score any points for the race. So we are back out on the track, lap 19. Finish out the rest of this race. And we are now moving on to lap 33. Going to be the end of the race. Finishing P11, Carlos Sainz finishing P10. Carlos Sainz getting 2 points for the team. And as you can see, they're not a very eventful race. We are assuming that the race was going to be partial rain, but that's not the case.
Over. Take care of the car on the way in.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
Well, as you can see, it was a very rough race for us today at Unity. Even Carlos Sainz lost some positions, but we'll have to rub it off and wait till the next time.